Hey, my usual spot was full of weed whackers and leaf blowers, so I had to move my recording studio to another bench. Let me read to you from Joshua 5. As soon as all the kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan to the west, and all the kings of the Canaanites who were by the sea, heard that the Lord had dried up the waters of the Jordan for the people of Israel until they had crossed over, their hearts melted, and there was no longer any spirit in them because of the people of Israel. At that time, the Lord said to Joshua, "Make flint knives and circumcise the sons of Israel a second time." So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the sons of Israel at Gibeat ha-Aralot. And this is the reason why Joshua circumcised them. All the males of the people who came out of Egypt, all the men of war, had died in the wilderness on the way after they had come out of Egypt. Though all the people who had come out had been circumcised, yet all the people who were born on the way in the wilderness after they had come out of Egypt had not been circumcised. For the people of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness until all the nation, the men of war who came out of Egypt, perished because they did not obey the voice of the Lord. The Lord swore to them that he would not let them see the land that the Lord had sworn to their fathers to give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. So it was their children whom he raised up in their place that Joshua circumcised. For they were uncircumcised because they had not been circumcised on the way. When the Hebrews left Egypt, God didn't give them the Torah as soon as they left their homes, or even as soon as they crossed the Red Sea. And when they came to the Jordan River, he didn't require that they were circumcised before they crossed the river, or even before their first battles after the river. It was only after they had won many battles and after they had spent 40 years in the wilderness, uncircumcised, that God told Joshua to fix this problem. There has never been a requirement to be circumcised in order to be a partaker of the covenant of Israel. There is a requirement to circumcise your sons on the 8th day. But after the 8th day, if you're a grown man, there's no commandment to be circumcised, unless you're going to partake of the Passover. We don't have a Passover now because there's no temple. We can't go to Jerusalem and have an actual Passover lamb, so we don't need to worry about that. In the big controversy in Acts 15, where some Jewish leaders were accusing Paul of telling Jewish converts to Yeshua that they didn't need to keep the commandments anymore, and they wanted to tell new Gentile converts that they must be circumcised in order to be saved. But that's completely wrong. That was never the case. Circumcision was never the price of admission to the covenant. God brought the Israelites out of Egypt without the Torah. It was only after they were redeemed that he gave them his law. He brought them across the Jordan and began the conquest of the land before they were circumcised. Circumcision only came after they began to take their inheritance. Circumcision is a good thing. It's a good thing to circumcise your sons on the 8th day. And if we ever get the chance to eat the Passover, men must be circumcised before they can eat it. But for now, anybody telling you that you must be circumcised or that you must adopt any Jewish traditions that are not explicitly commanded is just wrong. You can do those things if it's meaningful to you, but there is no requirement to do those things to partake of the covenants with Israel. Salvation is by faith in God's grace alone, not by obedience to any particular set of commands. Those are the things that God requires after you become part of the kingdom. You learn them after you come into the wilderness and come to the foot of Mount Sinai. You learn them through a lifetime with God. And I've got to go because there's a bunch of background noise now. This is Jay Carper from American Journal. Be blessed.